Hello, welcome to this episode of Bloodhound Pix, the podcast where we are doing a screener spotlight on the Canadian body horror 90s throwback action special effects revenge comedy, whatever, Psycho Goreman, or PG for short. As always, I am one of your hosts, Craig.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm Josh.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just keep track. So Psycho Goreman, it had a lot of hype behind it. It's from one of the co-directors of Manborg, the Astron 6 group. He also co-directed The Void, and this was to kind of be, again, a throwback to the 80s and 90s of like Power Rangers after-school specials mixed in with kind of these ultra-violent elements of this character that's basically the harbinger of nightmares and death, and is supposed to destroy the whole universe, and yet he gets controlled by a kind of bratty, selfish little girl who just wants to use him for all her little like games and stuff like that. And from the trailer, it seems amazing, but I will let, before I give my opinion, or we talk more, I'll let Kyle talk about the plot and then more and his opinion on it.
Psycho Goreman. Okay. I was looking forward to this, but it just... Okay, so like you said, it's this throwback to like 90s Power Rangers stuff, kind of mixed in with like extreme gore. And that's probably the most successful part of the film, but it also is kind of like this weird early 90s, like it feels like it's a weird version of like Kazam, or like these weird kids comedy movies that came out in the 90s where they get a fucking magical best friend or whatever, obviously taken to a weird extreme. But it's just not, most of the jokes don't really land. Like I wanted to love it, but it isn't really as funny as you want it to be. Even though, I mean, like, I feel like by the end it won me back over because it had like an end credits rap song, which I think is the best fucking thing ever. But it just, I don't know, like there's so many good, they did a really amazing job of mixing like practical and digital effects. And did like so many cool like world building things, but yeah, it just wasn't like as fun as it should have been. And I think it was really interesting what I like that they made the little girl the kind of tough sibling and the lead sibling of the boy and girl, because normally, you know, like in the 90s that totally would have been reversed. And she does a good job, but at the same time, she's kind of really fucking annoying. So, yeah, it's a hard... it should work, and it doesn't work for me, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so Josh, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with every single fucking word Kyle said about it. It should be a lot better than it is. I mean, I don't know how many times as I was watching this thing, you know, there would be like some attempt at, let's just say there'd be some attempt at humor, and I'd just like kind of roll my eyes instead of like laughing at it. It was almost like it was trying way too hard, but then I don't know, maybe that was the point, because it just seemed like it was endless in terms of just that specific thing. I fucking love Steven Kostanski, and I wish he would make more serious shit, because in all honesty, The Void might be one of my favorite films of all time. And when you look at his filmography, Craig mentioned Manborg, which is also completely fucking ridiculous. And then he did that Leprechaun film that was sort of like the reboot quel, which was also completely ridiculous. That movie was better to me than Psycho Goreman. And then Psycho Goreman, which, you know, we pretty much touched on, is completely ridiculous. And then there's The Void, which might be one of my favorite films of all time. I don't know if it was that Gillespie guy that kind of like steered him more into like the serious type thing with The Void. Because on his own, he just seems to go for this ridiculous shit. Now, the creativity of Psycho Goreman was through the roof. I wish more movies like that were made, because that shit doesn't happen. And it was ridiculous as hell. It was creative as hell. Knowing that it was Kostansky, the practical effects stuff in it was just crazy good. But it didn't make it, you know, it didn't prevent it from being like a slog to get through, because it was just like, God damn, how is this still on? I don't know, like, it seemed like it should have worked out, like it should be the greatest thing I've ever seen, but you know, it wasn't. And that girl was annoying as fuck. I mean, honestly, and again, it's like, it had to have been intentional. I you know, I don't know how it wasn't, but yeah, that girl was annoying as fuck. And yeah, it seemed like it the stuff in it that was intentionally humorous, it was fine, but it wasn't funny enough. It was not as funny as it thought it was.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. So again, as Josh was saying, and as Kyle was saying, this is one of those where you see the trailer, and it happens with a lot of his Manborg's the same way. He did that fake trailer BioCop, which is amazing, and I mean, it's amazing because, you know, it's only like 5 minutes too.
Yeah.
So he makes a great trailer and stuff like that, and I think his effects are incredible. Their world building is incredible, but it's like he almost just needs somebody to do the scripting element or something, because it's never as incredible as the trailer. Like Psycho Goreman, like if it was just the trailer, I'd be so ecstatic and think this is the greatest trailer of all time, or whatever, and then could leave it at that. It's like a spoof trailer. But yeah, I felt the same way. The stuff with Psycho Goreman and showing his other world element was great. I loved watching that, and I loved watching any of the fighting elements, and he's funny in it, the way he interacts with this world. But the stuff with the little girl, it's like the same joke over and over and over, and it just keeps doing that joke, and you don't have to have a movie where somebody grows. That can be part of the comedy of it, but to just watch that same bit of her being kind of like this crappy little kid, you're kind of like, okay, well, what's next? So that's why, I don't know, in my head I thought, well, this might have worked well as some like 15-minute episode Adult Swim show. It could fit in that vein where they could just do that or stuff like that. But I don't know. I was in the same boat, that it's just like the jokes don't really land, and I know there's elements where they're making jokes like those after school specials or whatever, those kid family films, and that's part joke. But even those kind of, I guess, jokes that are not supposed to land still don't land. Yeah, it's kind of the way I guess I could explain it. But yeah, I was disappointed, and I remember it was one that I checked the clock on a lot, where like, oh, I'm not even an hour in yet, and this thing's 90 minutes or whatever it is, and yeah, but the music is great, and Psycho Goreman stuff is great, and yeah.
Craig, that just reminded me of something too. Like I don't know why I just thought of it. I think in terms of your and I mentioned it too. Like, how is this still on? But there's remember when the kid, the brother that I did think that was kind of funny how Goreman never could remember his name.
Yeah.
But when he has that nightmare sequence, and
Yeah.
it was really dumb. I mean, the whole movie's dumb, but and then he's like, so what do we do now? And Goreman's just like, well, we just stand here and wait until your dream is over. And then it just like keeps going with them just staring at each other. I'm like, okay, that pretty much sums up this entire fucking thing, because yeah, it's just like, okay, we're just gonna have two characters now just staring at one another in a dream.
See, but
It's almost like he knew, like he knew that this thing was just, dragging. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like I think part of the problem was the whole plot is so predictable. Not that you're expecting to be like, have your mind blown, but yeah, you're like, okay, they're gonna fight these intergalactic people, and you're just kind of like, all right, when the fuck are the intergalactic villains gonna show up?
Yeah.
No, we're gonna...
and did it? Speaking of that too, like when it cut back early on. Sorry if this is gonna sound confusing as fuck, but just watch the fucking movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. That part when the villain characters that were gonna come to Earth and kill Goreman, the one character that kind of reminded me of like a Cenobite, turns into that woman, so she can be camouflaged on Earth. That happens, and then you don't see that character again for what, an hour?
Yeah.
Because it's like, how did it take that long for that character to get down, and continue the agenda, which is to kill this motherfucker? It was just weird to me that you saw that character change into a human being, obviously in an effort to come to Earth and not be a Cenobite, basically.
Yeah.
And it literally took an hour for that character to come back after doing that. I don't know. It was just like, there was too much stuff in there between that.
Yeah, that was the problem, is the pacing right there, because it's like,
yeah,
they just threw in more fun and games, more like, okay, well, let's put Psycho Goreman in a cowboy hat.
Yeah, montages of like, fucking, let me tell you about my best friend. It was like, how many times did you see that? And it's like, yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah, it should have been the greatest thing ever made.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
No.
So that's kind of our opinion on it. If you have any others, send us in. But yeah, I agree. I think we're all kind of in agreement that the pacing is what really kind of kills it. And yeah, for a movie that should be fun and whatever, it just spends too much time on these kind of montages and things like that. But yeah, so that's all I have to say on Psycho Goreman. I don't know if you have any last minute stuff before we close out this screener spotlight.
Nope. I just hope Kostansky makes something serious, and obviously I don't think he's going to, because the Void just seems to be the complete outlier in his filmography. But that's all I've got.
Bloodhound Pix podcast is part of the Morbidly Beautiful podcast network. Produced by Josh Lee, Craig Drum, and Kyle Hintz. Music by Raymond Seed. Editing by Kyle Hintz.